This past Hanukkah, the choir of KAJ celebrated 75 years since its inception. During Hanukkah of 1941, under the tutelage of Dr. Godshow Schnurb, the choir made a trial run. Under his leadership, it became a permanent feature of the American Kehillah. Dr. Schnurb served as choir director for 10 years and was assisted by his son Walter, who succeeded his father and remained in the position for 4 years. Walter Schnurb has also served the Kehillah as balkori and chazan over the past 40 years. Today, from his place next to the choir, Mr. Schnurb sings along the baritone part, as he knows it, from his years as leader of the choir. Our choir has its roots in Frankfurt, the idea and institution of Rav Hirsch himself. Rav Hirsch commissioned the services of Yisrael Meir Japhet, the choir director and composer for many great works that he later compiled into the book Shir. Over 100 works printed in that book, many of which are used in Washington Heights today. After Japhet's passing in 1992, Mr. Moses Schnurb, grandfather of our Mr. Schnurb, took over as choir director. He is known for writing the piece that we call the Yaris Yigdal, which not only incorporates tunes of the year, but weaves them into one continuous melody. After Mr. Schnurb, the choir director in Frankfurt was Mr. Max Neumann. Mr. Neumann, who had married, led the choir up until the war, at which time it is said that he fled to England. To complete the historical picture, I will quickly mention the following people. Rabbi Cantor Herman Lieber was the choir director at the time that Mr. Schnurb was the leader. He arranged the music and trained the choir. He was also responsible for several other choirs in the neighborhood. After him came the famous Seymour Silbermans that trained choirs all over New York. Mr. Silbermans brought us into the modern era with frequent concerts. The choir leader, after the Schnurbs, was Mr. Sidney Bauman from 1953 to 61. Then was Mr. Nathan Weiss, brother of our Balkori Mr. Benno Weiss, from Frankfurt, attended the Real Shula and sung in the choir under Mr. Schnurb. He served from 1960 to 1981. After that, Mr. Samson Bechofer was the choir leader, Avram Gutman, and then again, Mr. Samson Bechofer. The choir director today is Cantor Eric Freeman. Cantor Freeman has found many new and unique venues for the choir to appear in. Since the choir is made up of members of the community, the children have a part too, and they get to use their talents singing for the community. One of the most celebrated solos given to the children is the meek in Lahashem Ha'aretz Mloa sang on Yom Tov. This is typically given to the child prodigy of the choir, and it is something eagerly anticipated by young and old alike.
In the choir, well, when you're that age, it was like the biggest thing ever. When you're that age. But I can tell you, I have my memory of it is strong, because when you're, how old? I must have been 7, 8, so you're talking 38 years ago, something like that. It's petrifying, because you have to remember at that time the shul was pretty full, and you're talking second day Yom Tov, and we say miyala, and it was. I didn't eat the whole Yom Tov. You didn't eat until that solo was over. You have a shul of what was hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 people then, suddenly become quiet, and you're this little kid. I almost fainted.
Uri lets us in on a story that happened to him and happened to many young boys as they sang Mi'aleh for the first time.
The memory of it is strong because I messed it up the first time. That was why that was even better. Because you always practice it, Mi'aleh Bahar Hashem, right? You can't practice with Hashem's name, or at least that's what they told us then. So then, of course, my first time singing in the solo on Yontif, I sing Mi'aleh Bahar Hashem. And then I correct. So I think I might have been the first one to do that. And I still, every Yontif for the past 35 years, when I say it in Yontif, I still laugh.
When Rav Breuer set up the community in Washington Heights, he made it clear that the choir is an institution that is meant to stay. When Rav Hirsch was approached in Frankfurt about the necessity to have a choir in a shul, when after all, it is similar to what the Reform movement had in their synagogues, mishorerim, who accompanied the chazanim. He replied, "Leave me alone with your mishorerim. Our choir is made up of the members of our community, leading our community in spirit and kavanah.